So why is Sandstorm good, but Luna kind of bad? So one of the major problems with Luna is that the damage scaling isn't as high as Sandstorm. It basically allows Alcrest to penetrate half of the foe's defense, and on average it will increase his damage by roughly 5 to 15, sometimes 20 damage. It can be more, and it depends on the enemy's defense and res stat and what you're shooting them with. And it can be flexible because it can trigger off of Radiant Bow, which is magical damage, or any physical bow. However, the damage scaling isn't as good, and Alcrest is generally a player phase only unit, so if you want to have him enemy phase and counterattack, he's going to have a harder time doing that unless you go out of your way to set up him counterattacking at 2 and 3 range. Now you can counterattack with the mini bow at 1 range, which can trigger Luna on enemy phase against 1 ranges, but generally speaking, the best units at enemy phase hit at 1 to 2 range and don't get broken. And the fact that his class is locked to bow only means that the only way he's getting other weapons out is if he engages, and if that's the case, he's not going to be able to leverage things like sword, lance, and axe power consistently, because he'll only be able to get those damage bonuses on those powered weapons when he's engaged to emblems who have those weapons. So essentially, his main limiting factor is his access to certain weaponry. So here's how much Luna does when using Brave Bow. Now he's going to one-round this enemy, but let's see how much Luna boosts the 15 to. So it boosts a 15 into a 25, so plus 10 damage. That's still a significant damage increase, but it's not as much as a Sandstorm would do. Okay, so the first thing to know about Tamara and Sandstorm is that the damage of Sandstorm is generally way higher than the damage of Luna. Essentially, Sandstorm calculates damage based on your defense, and there are a lot of emblems that give you a huge defense increase, as well as the fact that she has high defense in of itself. So when she triggers a Sandstorm, it'll do more damage than the Luna, and she can also 1 to 2 range better than a unit like Alcrest. So if we just stick her in the middle of a bunch of enemies on Ike and pass a turn, she can use Lance Power to 1 round without Sandstorm, and then if she triggers it, it's just extra damage. So she turned 30 into 52 damage. So because of Lance Power and because of the way that Sandstorm scales, because of the fact that Tamara can 1 to 2 range in enemy phase, this just makes Sandstorm stronger than Luna. It just has higher damage potential, and this is excluding crits. So in this case, she wasn't able to get a Sandstorm and didn't kill this guy. Some of these have Lance Breaker for some reason, so she's actually unable to double because of Lance Breaker. But look at that, 20 damage into 53. And the nice thing about Sandstorm is it seems to always do, like, Jesus Christ. Oh yeah, and then you can Sandstorm crit, and you can Luna crit too. But the nice thing about it is you can roll for more of them because you can enemy phase. So even if you don't trigger it and something survives, if you just throw Tamara on Ike, she can just Sandstorm and kill a bunch of things. And that's the huge advantage of Sandstorm versus Luna in terms of like kill potential, because both can produce builds. Like you can run Brave Lance and basically guarantee a triggered Sandstorm. Both can run builds that go for 1 rounds on player phase. The Brave Lance build is more consistent though because of Lance Power. So when you have plus 10 attack per attack on Brave Lance, you're looking at 40 minimum damage, regardless of how high the opponent's defense is. And if you trigger a single Sandstorm, you will kill whatever you're attacking. And on top of that, there's other ways to boost strength. And right now this Tamara has 48 physical attack on a Javelin, which is pretty good. So let's just continue. Let's just have her do this. So these armors are going to pose a problem. They're going to present a problem, right? But armors would also cause a problem for Alcrest unless he Radiant Bows. He's not going to be enemy phasing them anyways. But this use case, like Alcrest can't use Ike in this way because he can't 1 range. The only thing he could 1 to 2 range on would be Ragnar. And if he wants to use Luna, he has to be on a class that doesn't have access to swords. So right there you saw 7 went into 27 damage on Sandstorm against an armor. So she's still able to deal decent damage to armors even with physical weapons, which, you know, that's pretty decent considering it's not even an effective weapon. Now if she uses effective weaponry, obviously she can kill armors easily, but she can always Flame Lance them too. That's an option to bypass their res, you know, their high defense by targeting their res. You can also trigger, you can't trigger Sandstorms on that, it's physical, but you can trigger Lance Power. Alright, they're attacking my Dancer. Just letting them do whatever. So Alcris can't really do this type of Ike tank build. Now if you wanted to get him to with Luna, you could use Ragnell and get him sword power, but then he would only be leveraging sword power when he's engaged with Ike. So, and it's also kind of heavy, it's going to slow him down. But you can see with Sandstorm and making a physical attack, so it doesn't work with the Flame Lance, but Lance Power still does. So you can usually one round, or at least deal heavy damage to armors with the Flame Lance. But the difference between the two is that Sandstorm has better damage scaling, it has more enemy phase options, so it can kill more things, and it also can be stacked with Lance Power. So there's more damage potential, and Lance Power is substantially cheaper than getting Lunar Brace. Base level Lunar Brace is 3000 SP, and then Lunar Brace Plus is 5000 SP. And you can run like Lance Power 2 to 3 for a while, and then get Lance Power 5 as you enter the end game, so you can increment it up or get as much as you need. So for those reasons, I think that Sandstorm is significantly better. Luna has potential, but the problem with it is it can't 1 to 2 range consistently, so it's pretty much only ever going to be a player phase build or player phase skill. The only situation where it's not going to be is if you want to run other weapons, but you would need to run 1 to 2 range engage weapons, because in order to get Luna, you have to be on a bow only class, and the only bow that has 1 range is the mini bow, and it also only has 1 range. It doesn't have 1 to 2 range like it does in 3 houses. So you basically just have better enemy phasing, and you have similar player phasing, but on a better class with better bulk versus Alcris class, which isn't bad, but it definitely needs more fixing. So like Tamara can just run speed +5 and Lance Power 3 to 5 on literally anything, and she'll be fine. Like she can run it on Ike, she can run it on Erica, she can run it on Roy, she can run it on Sigurd. There's so many different emblems she can use, whereas with Alcris, he's also limited to either super speed fixing on like Lyn, super speed fixing passives, or like Lunar Brace or Erica. So like those are his main things, and outside of that you can go for crits, and he can kind of go for a crit build, but his might is kind of low, so even if you do go for a crit build, you still usually need like a Luna to trigger, and if you're on a crit build, you're doubling, and doubling means less chance to see a Luna. But between the two of them, Sandstorm just deals more damage. It does 150% of your defense value, and it turns 7 into 27 on these armors. So I know what you're thinking. How do I know Luna is worse than Sandstorm? Well, Sandstorm has better enemy phase potential because it's on a unit who can enemy phase better. It also has better damage potential because you have things like Lance Power, which can give you huge damage boosts on player and enemy phase. So basically it's less flexible because of the fact that it's on a bow unit. And also it does less damage than Sandstorm because Sandstorm scales damage differently, and it generally outdamages Luna. Sandstorm and Luna can player phase kill semi-consistently. I would say Sandstorm is more consistent of the two. But yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.